Our world is both beautiful and vulnerable. The airplane has taken us further than we ever thought possible. But the more people fly, the more our ecological footprint harms the climate. Planes could soon account for 22% of all CO2 emissions, and every passenger contributes to this when we keep using fossil fuels. In France, an A380, the world's largest passenger aircraft, has been converted into a flying lab to test hydrogen and biofuels, like those derived from used cooking oil. Meanwhile, other stakeholders are working tirelessly on electric aviation. We explore how far these pioneers have come. The industry promise for 2050 is to fly green without harming the climate. We put it to the test. Environmentalists don't buy into this story. Greenpeace, for example, in the Netherlands are demanding flight bans. They protest loudly against private jets, but even regular holiday flights come under fire. The activists aim to turn the joy of flying into flight shame and ground as many planes as possible. For private jets, Geneva Airport is one of the most frequented worldwide. So it's no coincidence that the big names in business aviation always meet here in May for an exhibition. When E-Base is on, Geneva's luxury hotels are fully booked, along with all the jet parking spaces. No other mode of transport embodies luxury quite like having your own private jet with a list price of $40 million or more. It lets you enjoy travel without the queues. But as one passenger on a private jet emits at least 14 times more CO2 than one on a commercial airliner, the ecological footprint becomes a problem. With global market leaguers like Bombardier from Canada, Embraer from Brazil, and US companies like Gulfstream, all the big names show up at the exhibition. They promote sustainability and see themselves as pioneers of green flying. For Anna Kretschmar, this is pure hypocrisy. She comes from Cologne and has travelled to Geneva to protest with other activists in support of flight bans on behalf of the NGO Stay Grounded.
I haven't flown for years. I just can't justify it anymore.
Nicht mehr als etwas, was ich vertretbar finde.
As an activist, Anna has already brought airports in Berlin and Leipzig to a standstill and believes even illegal actions are justified. She also wants to make a statement in Geneva.
Ja, wie weit würde ich gehen? Ich glaube,
How far would I go?
Wie weit will diese
It's more like I wonder how far this industry and these governments are willing to allow it to continue.
Ich glaube, solange da nichts passiert,
I believe that as long as nothing changes, we need to keep up the pressure with some form of visible and radical protest to show we won't accept it.
wir nehmen das nicht so hin.
People who want a fairer world gather near the station. Tibor Schneeberger has organised a bicycle demonstration, and for the first time, the target is private jets.
Private aviation. It's a topic that hasn't been much discussed here yet. So it's kind of the first time that we talk about it.
Climate activists consider flying to be the most environmentally harmful form of travel. They oppose both long-haul flights and private jets.
We are demonstrating together today. We share the same goal, which is to get rid of private jets, because the world is burning.
Die Industrie setzt ja immer weiter noch auf.
The industry continues to prioritize growth, and that just isn't acceptable given the climate crisis. I believe we need to change how we travel and our attitude to it.
Reise unseres Reiseverhaltens geben.
For Robert Baltus, who organises the Geneva exhibition, private jets are not the problem, but part of the solution.
New technologies will always start in business aviation because it's so much easier to implement. So if we're looking at things like electrical flight, if we look at new solutions like hybrid flying and hydrogen, those kind of things you will see in business aviation first. And that's why, actually for us, it's an extremely exciting time because we're in the middle of a huge change.
This decade, electric flying cars are expected to alleviate urban congestion and make regional routes accessible. Most of them don't even need an airfield. Globally, over 300 startups are competing for this new business, such as Autoflight from China or Joby from California. An electric aircraft with tilting propellers. They are vertical for takeoff and swing forward for cruising. The multicopter can carry up to 6 passengers. The first passenger flights are expected in 2026. It's a billion-dollar business opportunity, but the risks are also worth billions. Midnight, the electric aircraft designed by Archer, also comes from the US. But air taxis like this do little to solve the climate crisis, and this is where the critics come in. Flying currently accounts for a small proportion of CO2 emissions. But in 30 years, jets could cause 5 times as much damage as they do today if they continue using fossil fuels. The larger the aircraft, the more challenging it is to find a green solution. But demand for flying is increasing, especially in Asia, where new major airports are being built and airlines buy aircraft indiscriminately, prioritizing business over climate concerns. This matter has also drawn the attention of politicians like German Minister of Transport, Volker Wissing.
Based on our analyses, this will be one of the sectors within transportation that will experience the most significant growth. No mode of transport will expand as rapidly as air travel, so it's important to find carbon-neutral solutions.
This addresses the aircraft manufacturers, especially Airbus. The global market leader still has more than 8,000 fixed orders to process. With all Airbus factories operating at full capacity for the foreseeable future, transitioning towards climate protection is challenging. At eBase in Geneva, business is brisk for the manufacturers at the static display. Unexpectedly, unauthorized activists appear among the private jets. The visitors don't know what's going on until the first intruders handcuff themselves to the planes. Or are handcuffed by security guards. Aircraft sales are currently off the table. Activists keep sneaking in, putting stickers on planes or chaining themselves to them. They've gained illegal access to restricted airport grounds. The police are on their way. They were clearly unprepared for a protest like this, as were the exhibition visitors.
You know, it's unfortunate that, the whole message is about sustainability, and I don't think they got the message, So I think they need to read up a bit about it. But they're definitely gathering attention, And lucky they're not armed or anything.
Yeah. I think it's not very respectful for all the operators and customers.
Flights are suspended, incoming aircraft are redirected to other airports. Air traffic control are afraid the activists may breach the runway. The police arrive and quickly bring the demonstration to an end. The protesters resist, but there is no violence. They are detained in airport buses. Anna Kretschmar from Stay Grounded isn't at the airport's protest. She will take part in an official demonstration later. But she reports on the blockade of Geneva Airport on Instagram.
We're here today joining our members in protesting against the biggest sales event of the private jet industry, eBase at Geneva.
This morning, over 100 activists disrupted the eBase private jet exhibition, sending a message against climate injustice. The super rich have been free to destroy our planet with their private jets for 20 years, and we cannot allow this.
After an hour, the first plane is allowed to take off from Geneva again. A private jet bound for Paris. The exhibition visitors need to wait a little longer. They are only allowed to move freely around the exhibition once all the demonstrators have been arrested and detained on the buses. The activists will spend the night in custody. They can expect fines or even imprisonment. Ralph Fuchs heads a Green Party think tank in Berlin. He empathizes with the activists, as back in 1968 he also was sent to prison during student riots in Germany.
I can understand the fear. There are plenty of doomsday scenarios circulating. But fear is a poor advisor. It tends to paralyze or lead to panic and radicalism. We can't just step out of this complex reality, especially in a world where more and more people are transitioning to a modern industrial lifestyle. And billions aspire to escape poverty, to lead a modern, prosperous and comfortable life.
No other means of travel is as quick and easy as flying. Flying captivates many people, even in times of climate crisis, and it gives you a sense of freedom. Even in ancient times, people longed to glide through the air like birds. Seeing the world from above reveals tiny miracles. When you hover above your homeland, you experience for yourself how everything fits into a natural order. Or into human society. You can read the landscape from above like a book, revealing traces of history and collective memory, even in overcrowded places. You also see places that are desolate and empty, but full of colours and scents that linger in our mind long after our visit. Landscapes as nature created them. Seeing the earth from above compels people to protect the world below. But no other means of travel damages the climate as much as aircraft. Björn Paxling from Malmö in Sweden hasn't wanted to fly for a long time. He was sentenced to prison for 2 months for blockading an airport. His appeal is today. Paxling is the father of 3 children.
Did anything special happen in kindergarten?
No.
Ingenting.
On October the 31st, 2021, the police were called to Växjö Småland Airport. Their body cams showed 2 activists, each with one hand glued to the runway. They are arrested. One of them is Björn Paxling.
What's your name?
Björn Paxling.
You're not allowed to enter here because it's within the protected area.
For some, he is a hero. For others, a terrorist. Björn Paxling is afraid of going to prison.
I think we'll get more attention to the things we're trying to bring into focus by being in prison, being locked up, and especially as parents of small kids. But as a parent of small kids, I really don't want to be taken away from my kids. And so far they have been proud and proudly exclaiming that my father is a climate activist. My father has stopped airplanes. And it's something that their peers are not teasing them about, but rather it seems looking up to.
With mixed feelings, Paxling is awaiting the video call from his lawyer about today's appeal decision.
What is the verdict?
The prison sentence was overturned to a suspended sentence and a fine, which is much more lenient.
A suspended sentence and a fine, so I'm not going to prison.
Which is a victory.
It really is. The first prison sentence for a climate activist to be overturned in Sweden.
The court has confirmed that it's an emergency.
Wow. Right now we see politicians say that you shouldn't scare children. You climate activists are scaring kids. But research shows that it's the other way around. Children who see people, adults in their vicinity and family members taking adequate action towards the climate crisis, they have a decreased level of climate anxiety. And that is something that we also have experienced with our kids.
Grab the bun, kids.
Oh.
I can see the danger of a cultural battle over flying. The battle between those who morally condemn air travel and want to reduce air travel and make it into an antisocial activity, and the majority of society who want to hold on to this achievement of modern mobility.
The aviation industry knows it must adapt in light of the climate crisis. Its hope rests on pioneers finding new ways, like they did in 1903. The Wright brothers, two bicycle mechanics who dared to dream of flying and tested out their ideas in the dunes of Kitty Hawk. Despite numerous frustrating attempts and several injuries, they eventually succeeded in taking off. After taking off from a rail, their first flight lasted just 12 seconds and covered just over 30 meters. It changed the world. The aircraft was born. Aviation developed rapidly. It became faster, more comfortable, and above all, safer. Today's goals seem equally unattainable, like flying green. Again, we need someone to lead the way, like André, Borschberg and Bertrand Piccard, who in 2015 embarked on a journey around the world from Abu Dhabi, powered solely by the sun.
It was my childhood dream. As a young boy, I read many books about the pioneers who made aviation possible today. Our Solar Impulse project was my gateway to these dreams, something I'd always yearned to pursue in life.
Only intense self-discipline enables André Borschberg to fly steadily for several days and nights. The pilot trained for this in a ground simulator, enduring 3-day shifts and learning how to manage 5 days without a bath or toilet. André Borschberg flies over India and China to Japan at just 70 kilometers per hour. The Solar Impulse has 17,000 solar cells. Its wingspan is larger than that of a jumbo jet, but it weighs less than a car. He sleeps for 20 minutes every 4 hours. If the wind is calm, the autopilot takes over as he sleeps. Regular oxygen inhalation is part of the daily routine at high altitude, along with meditation and physical exercises. The longest leg of 7,000 kilometers leads across the Pacific Ocean from Tokyo to Hawaii. Shortly after takeoff, a minor technical problem arises. All the engineers recommend repairing the aircraft back in Tokyo, but the flying conditions are perfect. André Borschberg doesn't want to miss the chance, so he decides to fly on alone across the ocean.
If we knew about all the problems we would encounter, we would never do anything. You must take them as they come, and often they turn into opportunities.
His flight over the Pacific takes 5 days and 5 nights, a new world record. The Solar Impulse is to get new batteries in Hawaii. Bertrand Piccard takes over the rest of the flight.
We are very different. He's a psychiatrist and I'm an engineer. I need a strategy and seek out the resources to reach my goal, like an engineer. He is much more spontaneous.
Departure at own risk, runway 04 right. Thank you very much, Kaleloa from Solar Impulse.
With a kiss from his wife, Bertrand Piccard sets off. It's the day of the Paris Climate Agreement. The Solar Impulse pilots have actively campaigned for this for years. Shortly after takeoff, the UN Secretary-General calls Piccard.
Hello, Solar Pulse. Hello, Captain Piccard. Where are you now flying?
I speak to you from the cockpit of Solar Impulse in the middle of the Pacific, flying on solar power, only, no fuel. Can fly day and night without fuel. The world, of course, can be much cleaner.
I am inspired by your pioneering spirit, and while you are making history, we have also made the history today. More than 175 countries signed the climate change agreement.
At the end of its round-the-world journey, the Solar Impulse lands back in the Emirates. It has covered 43,000 kilometers without using a drop of fossil fuel.
We made it!
Relief at the Monaco Control Center. They have proved that flying solely with solar cells and electric motors is feasible.
Aviation has always symbolized innovation and has at the same time been resisted by skeptics. In 1903, people believed that a heavier-than-air aircraft could not fly, until the Wright brothers proved that it could. With Solar Impulse, we were told that we couldn't fly day and night on solar power, until we proved them wrong. Today, we're talking about clean aviation, and there are still skeptics who say that it's impossible to achieve. What is clear is that aviation is an example of disruption, an example of innovation. Now we must do everything we can to achieve clean aviation, and we will.
Raphael Domyon aims to continue Piccard's and Borschberg's legacy, reaching even greater heights towards the sun.
The goal of Solar Stratos is to see the curvature of the Earth propelled by solar energy. We aim to realize the legend of Icarus 4,000 years later.
Take off.
We are flying.
Icarus is a prominent figure in Greek mythology. He symbolizes both human willpower and overconfidence as he plummets in his attempts to reach the sun. The history of aviation is replete with individuals who defy the laws of physics to pursue their dreams, including the aspiration to one day fly solely using solar cells.
No solar-powered electric aircraft has reached an altitude of 10,000 meters. The Solar Impulse managed just over 9,000 with solar power.
Raphaël Domyon advocates for clean flying and strict environmental protection, but also for freedom in the sky. He opposes prohibitions and restrictions.
Today, many ideologists want to ban flying in the future, just like skydiving, because they don't see the point. We want to show that both have a future, but without burning aviation fuel, without noise and without CO2.
In a groundbreaking moment for a prince with a pilot's license, Raphaël Domyon shows Prince Albert II of Monaco how easy it is to fly electric. The Velis is the first battery-powered electric aircraft to be licensed and mass-produced worldwide.
The only thing that can happen now is complete engine failure, which is very unlikely. We would have to make a water landing, but you do have a life jacket. We would touch down slowly with the doors open, and then we'll swim the rest.
Okay, if we have to.
The flight with Prince Albert was incredible. He is the first head of state to fly electric from Nice to Monaco. That was very brave of him. If the engine had given us problems, we could only have landed in the Mediterranean.
Even for a prince, being friends with pioneers like Raphaël Domyon comes with the risk of being infected by their enthusiasm.
Want to try your hand at flying?
Yes.
You're in control. Have you flown before? Have you taken lessons?
Not really, no.
It's not bad. You're doing pretty well. For him, it was a fantastic experience. His eyes were sparkling. He has his own jet, but he really enjoyed flying electrically, with a small aircraft like the Velis by Pipistrel. Great. You're flying really well. As far as I know, no electric airplane has ever flown to Monaco.
Yeah, that's true.
With an electric aircraft, there is no noise, no vibration. It's incredible. That was great. Thank you.
I've known Raphaël Domyon for a long time. He's a pioneer for sustainable flying, and it's great to work on this together. He's so passionate about his projects and dreams.
12 electric Velis aircraft are currently in operation at Swiss flight schools. Maya Zwick has a training session over Lake Gruyere near Fribourg. After flying for just a few minutes, the battery has already lost a third of its power. Takeoff requires maximum thrust, leaving just 36 minutes of flight time. It's crucial to monitor range, much more so than with a car. Compared to other training aircraft, the Velis is feather light at just over 400 kilograms. more like a glider than a sports plane. It was certified as an ultralight because the regulations are less strict in this category. Today, the flight instructor breaks off and returns to Aviation airfield early with his student Maya. A storm front is approaching.
For me, it's a passion I've had ever since I was a little girl. Since I started flying with my instructor, I've caught the bug, as they say. I wanted to make it my profession. We had weather-related stress. There were thunderstorm warnings and lightning was already flashing. You can feel that rain is coming. We have to stop flying now.
A minute of flight in the Velis Electric costs half as much as in a classic Cessna or Piper aircraft. In many countries, Velis flight time counts towards pilot licensing. Tomorrow's pilots learn to handle charging capacities early on, but also to dress warmly. The Velis does not have a heating system for the winter. That would mean even less flight time due to the weak battery.
We charge with 3 amperes. The aircraft will be ready again tomorrow morning.
Today, nothing is going as planned. The second Velis is staying in the hangar. The next student has come all the way from Lausanne for nothing. The flight school in Aviation was one of the first in Europe to acquire an electric aircraft. After about 500 training days, the Velis has convinced many, but not all flight instructors.
Instructors generally fall into 2 categories. Ones who are enchanted by the plane and will take all their students on it, and others who are more cautious, waiting for batteries to last longer, which, in my view, is on the horizon. 2 hours of flight time would be perfect.
The Velis is also a product of thirst for adventure and pioneering spirit. Its story begins shortly before the end of the Cold War in Yugoslavia, on a military airfield near the border with Italy. At 27, Ivo Borschberg dreams of flying and builds gliders using recycled Trabant engines, a small car from then-time East Germany. Due to a ban on private flying so close to Italy, he flies under cover of darkness when even the military tends to turn a blind eye.
The hangar door closed in the evening because the manager was, angry about us, and he was afraid that something happened with illegal flights. So he said, when I will lock the door and I go home, you can kill yourself as you like. I will not be responsible.
In the world of aviation, Ivo Borschberg is not afraid of risks. He builds and flies with passion. As the Iron Curtain falls, his trikes emerge as formidable contenders in the West. In 1989, he founds the Pipistrel company at the airfield. Despite success with ultralights and gliders, Borschberg wants more. Alongside like-minded friends, he pioneers a new frontier on the old military airfield, transitioning from conventional fuel to the untapped potential of electric flight.
When I decided 20 years ago to go in electric aviation and to design an electric aircraft, the people were asking me, how long are the cables, how long you can fly, So I was always too much in front of the time. But then with my team, I was always able to reach the goal. And I started to invest all the money I had and all the money I haven't, all the money we got on some grants and European grants. We won some championships, and all the money went in the development of the safe, let's say, engine, batteries and everything.
Pipistrel invested $4 million into transforming 2 of its Taurus G2 gliders into the advanced Taurus G4 with twin fuselage and electric engine. In 2011, Evo enters a NASA competition for green aviation. The Taurus G4 is really making waves. Evo and his team win a prize of $1.35 million, one of the most generously endowed prizes for aviation pioneers. Pipistrel now manufactures an aircraft every day. With his latest successful model, the Velis, the Slovenian company has brought something innovative to the world. Initially designed for competition, it has now become a successful series globally, a feat few have achieved since the era of the Wright brothers.
This aircraft is the first type certified electric aircraft in the world. It was type certified on 6 June 2020, and it's still the only one. And the other, we don't know when they will follow.
The founder's pioneering spirit has spread far beyond Slovenia.
That's the wall of some picture of famous people who were there, or I was invited to meet them. Because of my contribution to aviation, especially to emission-free aviation, like the Queen. I was invited to lunch with her, then founder of Uber, co-founder of Google, guitar player Steve Morse, who is also our customer.
In 2011, the famous Deep Purple guitarist purchased a Sinus glider from Ivo Boscarol, the precursor to the Taurus and Velis models. For those only familiar with aircraft from Airbus or Boeing, Pipistrel might seem like a minor player. But the convenience of flying today would not exist without these small-scale pioneering efforts. Yet, for one aspect of his work, there is no solution yet: batteries.
Efficiency of the cells are not, let's say, ready yet for long flights. So this aircraft can fly 1 hour, so it's 45 minutes lesson plus reserve. And when you change the crew, you do briefing, debriefing, you recharge it, and you can fly again.
Ivo Boscarol has forged a lifetime legacy, but for now it is enough. Last year, he sold Pipistrel to US corporation Textron. His sales package included many more ideas in reserve, also for better battery solutions. Low power is not the only issue with batteries. When the first electric cars hit the market, fire departments worldwide realized their helplessness when faced with electric car fires. Defective lithium batteries can ignite, quickly becoming too hot to extinguish. Although the issue is known to the manufacturers, they are still allowed to produce electric cars with the hope of soon having fire-resistant batteries. However, this development is taking longer than expected. At Canada's research agency NRC, batteries are pushed to their limits. Researchers simulate a short circuit in a battery cell to determine why it triggers a fire and, most importantly, why all the other cells also ignite. Thermal runaway is the term experts use to describe an uncontrollable battery fire as seen here. Preventing this chain reaction in the future is crucial before passenger aircraft can be certified for use. André Borschberg has not forgotten his battery challenges during his flight with the solar impulse. The engineer followed up on this issue. In Switzerland, he is dedicated to building safer batteries.
Perfect. These modules are integrated into the aircraft. They are special because if a cell did set on fire, the fire would not spread into the next cell or to the rest of the aircraft. A car can burn, a plane can't.
The finishing touches at Borschberg's company H55. Fully automated mass production is set to begin later this year. Time pressure is high. Borschberg has customers worldwide eagerly waiting for his batteries.
Here, we assemble various components and subject them to heat treatment. This gives the battery module a robust mechanical structure. It must withstand a crash and strong accelerations. All this must be ensured before the start of mass production. With this type, we measure the temperature of each cell. In a small aircraft, there are 3,000 of these measurement points, compared with just 5 in an electric car. Therefore, we know each cell precisely and can detect early on if their chemical values deteriorate.
Ça permet aussi d'anticiper si la chimie se détériore.
In Sion, in the Swiss canton of Valais, André Borschberg is building another promising business. In addition to battery production, he aims to retrofit older aircraft. Instead of using traditional petroleum-based kerosene, they will fly with electricity to reduce the environmental impact.
Today, we have around 500,000 aircraft. If we want to develop clean aviation, we can't just retire them. So, over the next 20 years, we will need the current fleet, but retrofit it with clean technology.
The startup Custom Cells manufactures customized batteries for the aviation industry. Lilium, another German startup, is having its own battery development produced in series here.
Custom Cells ist zur Aviation gekommen.
Custom Cells has ventured into aviation because electric flying has the potential to be with us for centuries to come.
Uns die nächsten Jahrhunderte begleiten.
Few technologies last for 100 years, but batteries are predicted to have a great future. Production takes place in especially clean, dry rooms.
To prevent particles from our street clothing entering the production area, we dress in a way that protects the battery from particle contamination, while also safeguarding ourselves as employees from direct contact with battery materials.
This factory produces the most advanced car and aircraft batteries around today. High performance is essential and should improve each year.
Only cells that pass rigorous testing, including destructive tests, are permitted to be integrated into an aircraft.
This test site was funded by US certification authority FAA. Every aircraft battery must withstand a drop from 15 meters. In the event of an emergency landing, they must not catch fire or explode.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Planes and helicopters must also pass these rigorous tests before receiving certification. Every battery at custom cells begins as powder. Political discourse on electric mobility often fails to mention that powerful batteries are made of toxic metals like cobalt and manganese. Manufacturers are aware of the difficulty of achieving an ecological balance.
These days, these metals have to be mined in sufficient amounts to meet market demand. That's why we're moving towards recycling, to get these materials not just from mines, but also from the consumer market. This is a crucial aspect in transitioning towards green batteries.
In future, batteries will need to store much more energy and still be environmentally friendly. This will probably take a few more quantum leaps. Another point of concern for certification are aircraft cabins. Being lightweight and robust, they must be able to withstand various stress conditions. NASA has initiated its own research program to support green aviation pioneers. For instance, they're examining the material strength of composites and identifying weaknesses in cabin structures in the event of a crash.
3, 2, 1, release. Release.
Over 200 data points provide information, while 20 cameras capture the images. The model used is a NASA custom-built cabin. It reveals numerous issues that must be considered in new developments. These test series cover the cabin floor, seats, and the outer shell. Electric jets were science fiction until now. The German startup Lilium is working to change that. Klaus Röver spent over 30 years at Airbus. In his last assignment, he oversaw the A320 program. He now aims to redefine regional flying at Lilium.
People will see flying completely differently. It will become socially and ecologically acceptable. Flying is slightly stigmatized today. It's loud, environmentally unfriendly, and often seen as just being for the rich. When I say to my children or grandchildren, "Hey, Dad helped develop the first electric aircraft," they'll probably ask, "Why? Weren't they always electric?" And I'll say, "No, they weren't."
The Lilium jet is an aircraft for 6 passengers that still doesn't exist yet, but soon will. It can fly electrically for up to 200 kilometers and take off vertically like a helicopter, so it won't need an airport.
The first model I deliver will get much better batteries over its lifetime and will eventually be able to fly up to 300 kilometers. Various studies estimate market potential at around 10,000 aircraft.
Lilium was founded by 4 students in 2015. In just a few years, their company grew to 800 employees and an investment volume of over 1 billion euros. Lilium is based in Munich, where testing and manufacturing take place. Series production is scheduled to begin once the jet receives its flight certification, planned for 2025. The production halls are still empty, but more than 600 jets have already been sold. Everything hinges on certification. Klaus Röver's schedule is now meticulously planned, not just for weeks or months, but for years. Lilium has searched worldwide for employees to hire. Klaus Röver has no doubt he is doing the right thing.
I wanted to do something meaningful and new again, and I believe Lilium and electric flying couldn't be more meaningful. I can contribute my experience and explore what it's like to work in a small, new company that isn't a huge behemoth. Maybe get a glimpse of what it was like at Airbus 50 years ago. All these things led me to join Lilium.
Startups like Lilium are aiming for a global impact. While Lilium has already simulated a launch in New York, it remains confined to the virtual realm for now. Another German startup is further ahead. In the race between the hare and the tortoise, Volocopter always seems to be where Lilium aspires to go. In November 2023, Volocopter test pilot Paul Stone circled Manhattan in New York for the first time. But the race is far from over.
It wasn't just a sightseeing tour. We've been providing some really useful information for the New York authorities to help them pave the way for their urban air mobility strategy in the future. And the feedback's been quite interesting. First of all, they couldn't hear the aircraft over the ambient noise of the city, so it's pretty much silent in its operation.
Propeller-driven air taxis are expected to shuttle back and forth between Manhattan and the Statue of Liberty within this decade. Powered by battery electricity, they will be quiet and emission-free. Volocopter aims to be the first startup on this future market.
I was drawn to the idea that we will be the first on the market to make electric flying accessible to everyone. We don't want to be second or third. We want to be first.
Dirk Hawker has also held management positions at Airbus. For Volocopter to be the first to get approval, Dirk must enter uncharted territory and come up with something we maybe can't imagine today, but he can. Whether Volocopter can build the Tesla of the skies will also depend on competitors from China and the USA.
We will position ourselves somewhere between large passenger aircraft, where there are hundreds per year, and the automotive industry with millions per year. But we also need to get the public on board. It's not just about technology and certification. We need people's acceptance.
My name is Jamie Hale. My role with Volocopter is to help the flight test team prepare the aircraft for test and to flight test the aircraft. As an engineer, I understand the criticism for aviation not being environmentally friendly ever. And there is some real weight and truth behind that. Volocopter and VoloCity isn't going to solve all of those problems. However, it's one small step in the right direction, and eventually you'll have 500 steps in the right direction.
Well, this aircraft is very simple to fly. And it's very simple to start up. So there are 9 batteries in this aeroplane. You literally switch on the batteries, and then when you're ready to go, you put your hand on the stick, you press the arm button, the rotors spin up, and then you control the aircraft into the air. It's as simple as that.
There is already a Vertiport designed for testing multicopters and electric jets in Pontoise, near Paris. Volocopter is scheduled to make its debut there, marking the start of the first test flights to Versailles and Paris. None other than the President of France has asked aviation pioneers from around the world to showcase their advancements with green aircraft at the Paris Olympics 2024. Volocopter is the first and so far only provider to have obtained a test license for Paris.
The Olympics happens to coincide with our operation launch. We'll also head to Rome in 2024, probably Singapore by the end of the year, and crucially, to the World Expo in Osaka, Japan.
Dirk Hawker needs many people to believe in his project. The Paris airports are a crucial partner, and Edward Arkwright sees Volocopter as a key player in promoting eco-friendly flying.
It's not just about believing in it. We're part of this story. With Volocopter, we're offering the first commercial flights in Paris starting in summer 2024 and continuing after the Olympics. It's a real commercial service.
We've always said that we're starting with a two-seater. Our plan is to introduce a four-seater to the market in 2026. By then, we expect commercially available batteries with the right power density to ensure safe operations from 2026 onward.
The four-seater for 2026 is set to be the Volo Region, an air taxi for urban centres and regional courier deliveries, powered by electricity and, above all, sustainable. Does this represent the future of transport in urban areas, with Paris as the first test market? Or are these just toys for grown-ups, out of reach of most people, the stretch limousine of the skies? At the Paris Le Bourget Air Show in June 2023, the focus is on sustainable aviation. The airports of Paris are there too, showcasing their division for new business ventures, led by the team around Abu Musa Joyce.
Nous allons développer 5 sites. We're constructing 5 vertiports, specialized airports for passenger drones, at our Charles de Gaulle and Le Bourget airports, at the Issy-les-Moulineaux heliport, as well as one at the Palace of Versailles, and the 5th in Austerlitz at the heart of Paris.
Et en 5e à Austerlitz, dans la ville de Paris.
And here is the target group for the Paris airport's new project. Travelling from Charles de Gaulle to the city centre during rush hour currently takes a 2 to 3 hour taxi ride, costing €250. The Volocopter aims to cover the distance in just 15 minutes from 2030. To start with, Volocopter must first convince the city's residents with good results outside the city centre. An initial route connects the airports Charles de Gaulle and Le Bourget. There will also be scenic tours from Le Bourget and from the heliport along the Seine, offering views of the Eiffel Tower and the Old Town. Transfer flights to Versailles are also planned to depart from here. The Austerlitz landing point, a pontoon on the river, could double as an emergency medical station.
Le prix, ça va être entre 120 € et 150 €.
A 15-minute flight will initially cost between €120 and €150. But as the network develops and expands in around 2030, the price is expected to decrease to €90 to €100 per journey.
L'objectif, c'est que ce prix par billet va diminuer d'ici 2030 à entre 90 et 100 € par course.
At Le Bourget, the Chinese company Yihang showcases its electric drone, boasting an impressive 40,000 test flights and a certification in China. It operates autonomously without a pilot.
The certification is exclusively for the Chinese market, and it remains to be seen which markets will also adopt Chinese-type certification. There are some countries, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region, that look very promising.
In Japan, EHang has been granted permission for a number of autonomous passenger flights and has already received over 1,000 pre-orders from Asia. Priced at $300,000 per unit, the cost is anticipated to drop with mass production. Currently, the drone primarily operates in China along established routes in Shenzhen.
I've flown with it several times already. It feels more like riding an elevator, thanks to the multi-rotor concept. The product has 16 rotors arranged both above and below on 8 arms. It doesn't wobble, it doesn't shake, and there is no turbulence, providing a very stable flying experience.
Interest in flying cars seems to be particularly high in Japan. In June 2023, an electric drone connected 2 islands in the Okinawa prefecture. However, whether Japan will approve the Chinese model is questionable. Essential evidence for all types of safety scenarios typically required in aviation is still lacking. Moreover, Japan itself now has its first providers of innovative air taxis like SkyDrive. The Tokyo-based startup visualizes a strategy where self-driving electric vehicles start from residences and seamlessly join controlled flight networks. SkyDrive expects its flying taxi, tailored for Asian megacities, to be approved by 2026. Could this revolutionize urban travel worldwide within 20 years to come? The vision reminds some of Star Wars, others of the early days of aviation. The first cars were in the air as early as 1930. Waldo Waterman, a Californian pioneer, had the brilliant idea of merging the car with the plane to improve long-distance travel. His hybrid was easy to fly and performed reasonably well on the road. By 1937, the pioneer had built 5 prototypes, but interest waned. Customers favored comfortable road cruisers over his lightweight designs. Nevertheless, Waldo Waterman survived all his experiments and lived to a grand old age, passing away in 1976.
It's generally true that only a minority of pioneering companies will ultimately succeed. But that's no reason not to pursue seemingly utopian solutions that may only bear fruits in 10 or 20 years. We need competition for climate-neutral solutions. And startups play a crucial role in that.
Some countries are making strides toward climate protection and green aviation. Norway, for instance, aims to completely phase out fossil fuels in aviation by 2040. The country relies heavily on aviation. But having the will to change is one thing, having the ability is another.
The Nordic countries are leading the way to electrifying air travel. Norway wants all their domestic flights to be 100% electric by 2040, but there's no product to meet this demand, so that's what HART is building.
Inspired by his first electric flight in Aviation, aerospace engineer Anders Forslund established the startup HART Aerospace in Gothenburg. His goal is to build an electric aircraft designed to serve northern regions. After completing his degree, he dives into action with his wife Clara. Despite being newly married and expecting twins, they don't let that slow down the project.
We were trying to build something that was under 20 passengers. But then something happened. We got a call with United Airlines. And they said that this aircraft is perfect for us. And they ended up writing an order for 100 aircraft.
Canada is also investing in HART, but the planned aircraft is too small for the international market. Anders Forslund must construct a larger one that can carry 30 passengers. But achieving a range of 400 kilometers is not viable due to limitations in current battery technology. To advance the aircraft and its logistics, Forslund is considering a hybrid solution, as used in electric cars.
So what we did was to actually build a hybrid system.
So let's look inside this plane. The ES-30 seats 30 passengers.
The ES-30 manages takeoff and a maximum of 200 kilometers on battery power alone. After that, a generator in the fuselage comes into play, powered by either fossil or sustainable fuel, depending on availability. The batteries, located in the belly of the aircraft, weigh a total of 5 tons. The structural model gives an idea of how heavy the batteries are for the aircraft. Yearly improvements are expected to expand the aircraft's range. But Anders sees no alternative.
The climate crisis is an existential challenge to us all. For this industry, it's a profound challenge to the business. Air travel is losing its legitimacy. Air travel, I think, is also the backbone of a lot of our civilization. It's the thing that physically connects people from all over the world. It's an infrastructure that I don't think it's just a good to have. I think it's an essential, sort of like the internet, right?
The dream of green flying will become true quickly as soon as climate-friendly fuel is available. Trollhättan Vangarsborg Airport in Sweden takes the lead here.
And we want to show the world that it is possible right now and right here. That's the short answer why we have biofuel.
Yeah, well, I couldn't agree more. That is the short and right answer. No, we had an opportunity to go for maximum blend of biofuel, and we did it.
Well, the mandate that EU has set up for 2045, we're almost there already at this airport and on this airline, because we have a maximum blend, which in practice means that around 40% of the fuel inside this aircraft is biofuel already. So now we can take next steps and not worry about the mandate. We're already there.
A 2% blend of biofuel in gasoline is already mandated within the European Union, and this is planned to rise to 70% by 2050. The Finnish group Neste is producing biofuel near Helsinki, in the Netherlands and in Singapore.
So the raw material is used cooking oil, and used cooking oil is basically waste fat, which has been used for cooking food in restaurants, household or industries.
One of the suppliers is a hamburger chain.
Now I'm making fries, and when this oil has been used, they make airplane fuel of it.
But you need quite a lot of fries to make it into the air. A scientific calculation estimates that it takes about 13,000 servings to produce enough biofuel for one seat from Sweden to Spain and back. This would mean eating one serving of fries daily for 36 years. Slaughterhouses also provide fat residue that can be used to fuel an aircraft.
The problem is that you don't have enough of these raw materials available in the world right now. There are several reports saying that there is between 30 to 50 million tons of this raw material available worldwide. The global aviation fuel demand is roughly 300 million tons.
Neste, the world's largest producer of renewable aviation fuel, is seeking new rich sources of raw materials. Algae and wood waste could potentially supply aviation fuel in the future, but scaling up production from these sources remains a challenge for Neste.
There are several benefits of using sustainable aviation fuel. One of them is that sustainable aviation fuel has 80%, up to 80% less emissions, and it has 50 to 70% less particles and less soot, which is causing these cloud formations behind the aircraft, which actually has a higher climate impact than the emission itself.
Well, I think that biofuel is a part of the solution, and it is what we can do now. But waiting and doing nothing, I think that's much, much worse. Then we have to solve the other issues with biodiversity, for example. But we cannot wait for all the solutions to be 100% right, because then we wait too long.
Today, biojet fuel costs 3 to 5 times more than traditional fossil fuel, which has long been tax-exempt in many countries. This is likely to change soon.
To become fossil-free in 2050, it's possible, but we need to start now. And there needs to be a very, very clear political direction that this is what will happen, because I think the transition of the fleet is the key answer here.
Die EU muss da ambitionierter werden.
The European Union needs to be more ambitious. The current goals are very modest, considering we want to ramp up production and achieve significant reductions in CO2 emissions. If we want to avoid contributing to the climate apocalypse, then our only option is to embrace the vision of carbon-neutral flying and rapidly turn it into a reality.
Klimaneutralen Fliegens, sie möglichst schnell in Realität zu verwandeln.
Instead of relying solely on battery power, other startups are combining an electric drive with hydrogen. The goal is to convert existing fleets to green flying and continue using them for as long as possible. This 15-ton truck in Seattle is driven by an aircraft propeller powered by a fuel cell. This is an initial ground test before the new engine can be used in an aircraft.
We don't believe in batteries for commercial aviation because the hydrogen electric power plant is much lighter and it will take you much further than what any battery solution could do. We are already convinced that the hydrogen costs already today is very close to being break-even with aircraft fuel already. And as we move forward with the many countries having hydrogen strategies, and the cost of hydrogen continuing to decrease, it's just going to become better. We remove the existing engines in existing aircraft, install our engines, and then you have a new pollution-free solution. This also helps because you don't need to build new aircraft, and this is a much more sustainable solution as well. The market for existing airplanes is into the thousands, and those can be used still for several years depending on what the age of the aircraft is. For our first steps, we are talking about aircraft in the 10 to 19 seat class, with the next step that will follow for the 30 to 90 seat aircraft class. This will be until 2027 into 2030.
Each company at the Paris Air Show in Le Bourget has its own slogan and a marketing strategy. Yet everyone believes in the power of technology and that it will enable humans to succeed in making the world better. The Volocopter opened the show at Le Bourget every day before the fighter jets took to the skies. Josef Kallor is fascinated by the jets as well. He was brought here by his pioneering work on hydrogen solutions, a passion he's been dedicated to for over 15 years. He can now see his long-held vision nearing fruition.
Hi, nice to meet you again.
Nice to meet you. Have you had a look to mocap there?
Oh, the plane is there. Okay, very good. Wir bekommen sehr viel Interesse.
We're getting a lot of interest in renewable energies. People ask where the hydrogen will come from or what type of hydrogen we'll be using. We'll be showcasing liquid hydrogen functionality.
For his groundbreaking experiment, Josef Kallo uses the framework of the G4, which in 2011 secured the NASA award worth over $1 million. Having acquired the twin fuselage design from Ivo Boscarol, Kallo and his team transformed it into a hydrogen test aircraft. Now equipped with a fuel cell, it was renamed Hi-4, symbolizing its hydrogen propulsion. Two pilots sit in the left fuselage, while the tank is in the right fuselage. It is internally insulated to maintain temperature like a thermos flask. Except here, liquid hydrogen must be kept at minus 253 degrees Celsius, which is not easy. After several years of preparation, the twin fuselage aircraft is ready for its premiere in Slovenia. The Hi-4 is set to take off and fly using liquid hydrogen for the first time.
Ich bin leidenschaftlicher Pilot.
I'm a passionate pilot because it gives me a sense of freedom.
Ich tatsächlich Freiheit empfinden kann.
But at the same time, I feel guilty knowing that I'm burning 40 liters of fuel per hour.
40 Liter Sprit pro Stunde.
I feel bad about it because I know there could be another way.
Ich weiß, es könnte auch anders gehen.
Since his studies, Kallo has been striving to harness the potential of hydrogen, the beacon of hope for the green industry. In its liquid form, hydrogen is exceptionally powerful, but it requires temperatures as low as minus 253 degrees Celsius. On August the 31st, 2023, the two test pilots are ready for takeoff in Maribor. It's a world first. No one has ever taken to the skies with this kind of propulsion system before. The Hi-4 is expected to achieve a range of 1,500 kilometers, 10 times further than today's small battery-powered electric aircraft. Liquid hydrogen offers much more power than any battery. The propeller is between the passenger and tank fuselages, powered by the fuel cell behind it. Aviation accompanies the flight with an onboard engineer tasked with closely monitoring and documenting progress.
Maintain this power, even slightly increase.
Tension mounts for landing. It's hard to believe how smoothly everything is going after weeks of uncertainty about whether the authorities would grant permission for this experimental flight. Tension melts away when landing proves as smooth as takeoff. Alongside the joy of a successful world premiere, there's a palpable sense of relief that nothing went wrong, especially for Pavel, the Polish test pilot.
Well, I'm very happy. I've been waiting for this moment for quite a long time, to be honest. And this was, as you know, the first flight with liquid hydrogen on board. And seems like the performance is really good. And actually, we can have flights lasting for 10 hours or more. Sky is the limit, basically.
For Josef Kallo, it's a dream come true. He has opened the door to a new world.
Today, we are on the threshold of being able to use this technology to build larger systems, transporting an 80-seater up to 4,000 kilometers.
Bis zu 4,000 Kilometer weit zu bringen mit dieser Technologie.
People all over the world congratulate the team on their record-breaking flight. It takes a researcher to truly grasp the significance of today's success for hydrogen research.
When discussing new concepts like aircraft, integration or cooling, I can imagine going even further and suggesting that aircraft with 100, 120 or 150 seats and ranges of up to 6,000 to 8,000 kilometers could be feasible.
Bis zu 6.000, 8.000 Kilometer wäre realisierbar.
The optimal design is an aircraft with passenger seats in the wing. This flying wing only requires half the fuel of a traditional design. Jet Zero in the US is researching this area. As is often the case, advancements in aviation technology are also driven by military needs. Jet Zero is already considering designs for a troop transporter for the US Air Force. The flying wing design is inspired by the stealth bomber B-2. Its shape renders it invisible to radar. The B-2 can carry 16 one-ton nuclear bombs and fly distances of up to 11,000 kilometers. This design caught the attention of Airbus, who aimed to carry 200 passengers on mid-range flights of 4,000 kilometers. Airbus is investing heavily in hydrogen propulsion, in flying wing and traditional designs, with a targeted launch by 2035.
I believe that hydrogen is at the heart of aviation's decarbonization. I think hydrogen in its raw form is extremely exciting in terms of cost per ton of avoided CO2. Also in terms of climate impact, it looks like it's got huge potential. But also hydrogen used as an ingredient in synthetic fuels or e-fuels has also got a big part to play in aviation's decarbonization.
To drive sustainable aviation, Airbus has reactivated a famous veteran in Toulouse, the prototype of the A380, the world's largest passenger aircraft.
This aircraft is the A380 serial number 1, and now our plan is to take this aircraft and modify it into a hydrogen propulsion flight laboratory. Our ambition is to take this aircraft and add a stub in between the two rear doors at the upper level, and hydrogen distribution, which will feed this engine with hydrogen.
Like the High 4 in Maribor, the fifth engine of the A380 requires liquid hydrogen. The tanks take up a lot of space in the rear third of the A380.
We're now inside the main deck of the A380. You can see that this main deck looks very different than for an aircraft carrying passengers. That's because it's a flight test aircraft. Now what I'm going to show you over here is where we're going to install the liquid hydrogen tanks. They'll be located in around this position, which I showed you would be located at the rear of the aircraft. Our target for flying the flight demonstrator is 2026, which is actually very short term in terms of equipment development, in terms of the ground testing which will have to take place, and then ultimately the flight testing.
Airbus is not only a leader in large aircraft, but also Europe's main helicopter manufacturer. The Eurocopter H145 is made in the Donauwörth factory. It is deployed globally as a rescue helicopter. It is priced at around 5 million euros. Helicopters play a crucial role in responding to severe accidents. This rescue service has been co-developed by German Automobile Association ADAC, which provides road accident response services. Since the 1970s, helicopters have been rescuing patients in all kinds of emergencies. But each flight costs several thousand euros. Helicopters are also noisy and require a lot of fuel. So ADAC is testing the Volocopter as an emergency medical shuttle with plans to buy up to 150 units if successful.
We don't use kerosene. We have far fewer moving parts than a helicopter. This is not only cost-effective, but also more reliable. And let's not forget that the ecological footprint will be completely different.
Our employees saw it in yellow for the first time today and feel proud of it.
While Airbus denies that the era of helicopters could be ending, they are already exploring alternatives. Along with helicopters, the Donauwörth factory will also manufacture air taxis. Drone propellers will be tested here. Manager Balkis Sarihan is tasked with evaluating the concept of flying cars for Airbus.
Our blades, our propeller.
If we're really honest today, it's not yet an industry, it's not yet a business, it's not yet a market, but the potential is there. And this is what we focus on, this mid to long-term view that says if we're doing everything right in a very pragmatic and a bit of a humble way at Airbus, then when we put this product to market, not the first flight, not the subscale demonstrator, but really the first product to market, we will have something to offer.
This is the current design of the City Airbus in CGI form. The company hasn't revealed its true progress yet, perhaps to avoid disrupting its successful helicopter business. Like Volocopter, Airbus plans to operate from Vertiports at airports and urban centres and provide sightseeing flights for tourists.
The technology will evolve, but if it is not manageable from a profitability perspective, then it will be a very short-lived experiment, which would be the most unfortunate thing. So all of this investment, all of this energy will go into something which just ends up being a collection of museum pieces. This is not what we want.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, airlines grounded entire fleets at Teruel airfield in Spain. To escape the climate crisis, activists would like the entire aviation sector to be grounded this way. However, flying is an achievement that most people don't want to give up. Restructuring appears to be the only feasible solution now.
Transforming a complex industrial society is a marathon, not a sprint. It's a process that will unfold over 20, 30 years, and even that timeline is quite ambitious.
The world would be a worse place without air travel. I think we'd see more conflicts, I think we'd see more wars, I think we'd see less tolerance, less understanding. But we can't keep doing this. We can't keep being on the trajectory.
It's good to see greater awareness emerging about the problematic nature of flying. For a long time, the industry succeeded in downplaying it, as if it weren't an issue at all.
Of course, it will cost a lot of money, but it's technologically feasible. So, for me, it's also achievable through legislation and changes in people's attitudes.
So by 2030, I would say that here we will have an electric aircraft and one with biofuel and one with hydrogen and something else that we haven't invented yet.
Following the solar impulse, a hydrogen-powered climate impulse is scheduled to circumnavigate the globe in 2028, aiming to inspire and show that green flying is feasible. For the human spirit is as boundless as nature itself.